Jason McLaughlin, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're unbelievably busy right now with this situation, and certainly we all want to express our thank you, our respect, our admiration for not only the doctors, the nurses, the first responders for taking on the responsibility of the challenge of this coronavirus. So thank you for that. And my first question was going to be, what kind of coach was Mike Joseph? But I think I'll hold off on that one, and I'll let Mike ask the first question.
Hey, Jason, great to see you again. Great to have you here, and such a special time for you. And obviously, being in the medical field, you're on the front lines, and one of the former members of Lafayette that are working in the medical field. And what has it really been like? I mean, from a standpoint of being on the front lines, taking on people coming in. Has it been as hectic as everybody says? And maybe you can give us a little bit of insight as a former player, and obviously what it means to be helping people so close to the front line.
Well, it's interesting because it's certainly, as you hear through all the news, it's very busy. You hear about New York and how they're dealing with it. It seems like, at least in our hospital, which is just north of Philly, the volume actually is down, which is a good thing. It tells us that people are paying attention to the stay-at-home orders, to the recommendations, just to try to be as cautious as possible. The volume's down, but the people that are coming in tend to be sicker at this point. So you have a large number of people from nursing homes that are coming in, and they already have pre-existing conditions where there's situations where certainly a virus like this can throw them into a perilous situation. And although we will see a lot of sick people on a daily basis, it just seems like we're seeing a few more of these individuals. The interesting thing is you'll also see younger people come in that normally, if they had the flu, they would just look ill. You could tell they had the flu, more than just a regular bug, and normally just a regular virus, and they just appear to be a little bit worse and just tend to have some respiratory symptoms that they normally wouldn't have, or we wouldn't see as frequently. So in terms of presentation, the people just look a little bit sicker, to the point of requiring ventilators maybe a little more frequently. But again, volume down, so we have the staff. It's just a matter of having the appropriate resources and space. And fortunately, at the hospital that I work at, we haven't had any issues at this point. They've been very good in terms of protection, in terms of what's available for the patients that are coming in. So it's very interesting, and sometimes we have a little too much staff, which in a situation like this is actually a good thing. Yeah, because you never know when there's going to be an influx of patients. You just can't dictate when that's going to happen. And although there have been predictions in regards to timelines, when it was supposed to peak, and I mean, those days seem to be quite similar to what we'd been seeing before and what we're seeing after. So I think it just proves that we're ready, we're available. We aren't having a situation where we get into trouble from a staffing standpoint.
Are you preparing, Jason, just a kind of a follow-up, are you preparing for the possibility of it coming back in the fall again?
You know, I think everybody's, it's on the back burner for everybody, but I don't know if that's the right term. I think everybody's just going to be taking this as a day-by-day situation, and everybody's very apprehensive. I mean, obviously today's May 1st is a big day. There's more in Pennsylvania. Certainly the government's allowing everybody to do a little bit more today. So I believe it's going to be watched. The whole situation will be watched very, very closely to see if there is any type of spike. So I don't think anybody's resting at all at this point, because it's a matter of, okay, we need possibly increased awareness now, and that return, I believe that once you have a situation like this, I think it's always going to be, I said back burner, but I think it's going to be at the forefront of your mind and just watching for when there is, and maybe even hypervigilant to see if there is, oh, okay, here comes a spike. What are we going to do? How do we ramp up? Are we prepared? And in my opinion, I believe that we would be, just because I think we've seen a pretty significant situation so far. But you can never predict, and that's the strange thing and the scary thing about this virus. You can't predict, so you have to be sometimes over the top in terms of management and caution.
Sure.
Jason, Jason, I understand that there are, you're not alone as a Lafayette graduate in terms of people working at your hospital and also at Abington Lansdale Hospital. Can you mention some of the Lafayette grads, and perhaps maybe they were also athletes, whether you know that or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have one of Lafayette's best athletes. I guess there could be a debate over that, but one of Lafayette's best in Heidi Caruso, who Heidi Commons now is her last name, but Heidi's at Lansdale, works in the emergency department as well. So she's part of our group, and we work closely with her, and she's an excellent physician. Other docs that we have in the hospital, there are no other docs, from what I understand, that played sports, although I may be wrong with that. But Merritt Van Pelt is a woman that I work with in the emergency department, and then Rich Friedenheim is a pulmonary critical care doc who he's seeing, of course, the worst of the worst as well, because they come into us, we stabilize, and then they go to the ICU where Rich Friedenheim would take care of them in the ICU. So, and he's an invested grad. He's made it very clear to me. I think he's been to every Lafayette Lehigh game for the last 45 years. So his family is, I think, very invested in Lafayette and Lehigh, for that matter.
And you haven't? And you haven't? What's the deal?
I haven't been to every one. No, I moved away for a little bit for residency, and but I've actually gone to a game with Rich and his family, and took my boys with him, the two of my kids with him. So it was enjoyable to see that environment, that family situation. But yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate to be around a lot of Lafayette grads. And I'm good friends with another guy who I didn't know while at Lafayette, but met afterwards, Craig Weiss. He was a baseball player for Lafayette, and a very solid baseball player as well. He lives right near me. So it's a great community.
Mike?
Yeah, great job. We talk. Obviously, we've covered what you've been doing after, but let's take you back a little bit and take you back to that time on Lafayette on the Hill. And a lot of people don't remember. It's 20 years ago, so you think about it. You are one of the only players that was a 4-time All-Patriot League player, 4-time, twice a first leaguer. Incredible accolades, members of 2 Patriot League championships. Both you and I were members of those, and you were recognized on the 15th year anniversary team. I mean, you were an incredible player, the best kicker in the league. Take us back a little bit and tell me about what you remember about the time on College Hill and what really kind of stood out for you. You had some great coaches. Obviously, Coach Tavani retired a few years ago. He was your kicking coach at the time, and I remember that so well, him and you having such a great relationship. So take us back a little bit and tell us a little bit about what you remember most.
I think it goes back to the friendships. I mean, it starts from freshman year when you're in the dorms 2 weeks before college. And I will always say with sports, it's such a benefit, and it has a benefit in many ways. But coming into college 2 weeks early, meeting a bunch of guys, meeting 100 guys that you're spending all day with every day. I mean, certainly that opportunity gives you a leg up on the rest of the kids coming into school. I mean, you're coming from high school to college and just meeting everybody. You have a comfort level. When everybody else shows up, you're already comfortable because you've been in the environment for 2 weeks. And the group of guys that are there, Lafayette picks good people. I mean, they aren't going to take people that don't fit in and that aren't successful, that aren't intelligent, that aren't good people. So that's what I remember the most from the beginning. And then the fact that continues along. I mean, there are certain email chains that I'm on with people I haven't heard from years, and you pick right back up. And they may not have been my best buddies while at school, but they we talk like we've known each other forever, and we're best friends. And I think you just meet a unique individual at Lafayette that you really hold on to those friendships, and it's a great experience. And then of course football. I mean, we had a great. We're lucky to have such great people in terms of coaching, in terms of players. I mean, we got lucky.
Yeah, there were some incredible players, and you and I, before we came on the air, talked a little bit about the late Tommy Kirchhoff and how you all went to that same high school. And these are names from the past, but Tommy Kirchhoff and obviously Matt Cope and these guys that all went to Cedar Cove. That was a heck of a pipeline.
Yeah, I think once Coach Tavani, I think he was scouting in our area. Once he got Tommy and realized, and we all played with Tommy, so we were lucky in high school to see him when we went to state finals when Tom was a senior. But we were lucky that Coach Tavani kind of landed on us. Tom obviously was fantastic, and it helped to get everything going. And then Chris Hummel followed him up, who was fantastic as well. I mean, these are all great guys. I'm probably the slouch of the bunch. I
don't know about that.
And Matt Cope comes through, and he's another stud. So it was nice, and that was comfortable as well. Obviously, you have guys that you knew prior. I grew up playing sports with these guys prior, so when you have that already available, and you come to college and you have that connection, it makes life easy for you.
Sure. Gary?
Jason, one final question, and again, we thank you for taking the time, but you've already touched on this a little bit, but can you talk a little bit about the experience at Lafayette, both athletically and academically, in terms of how it prepared you for this elite profession of being a doctor?
Well, I think it provides you with the opportunity to kind of take your own course. I mean, when I was there was not a pre-med track. I was a chemistry major, but I enjoyed history. I loved biology. I mean, you can get through your major and still have opportunities to see so many different fields. So you can kind of carve your own track in that regard. The small classes were great, just the contact with the professors. I mean, I did research in the chemistry labs. I was a lab assistant, and it was a teaching assistant in the lab, I guess. So long ago, I'm forgetting the exact term. I apologize. But it provided you the opportunity to learn, but also to teach and to grow. And the one thing I was writing down some notes of just certain things that I enjoyed about school. Again, it goes back to those friendships, but it's also you get to know so many people, and you can pick people's brains, even if obviously it was a big Greek situation, at least while I was there. I know that's pared down a little bit, but it didn't matter if you were in a fraternity or a sorority. You had your classmates as well. You had multiple different groups of friends that you would spend time with and study with, and it's just a unique situation where you're dealing with a lot of great people. I guess, how has it helped me? By letting you grow on your own, but with obviously some guidelines and assistance. You're able to find your niche, and that helps you going forward. You can kind of take your own path. There's not necessarily one way to do things, and you learn that in many walks of life by just figuring out what works for you, and kind of taking your own independence and letting that grow. So I mean, it was a great place. I look back on College Hill fondly. I think it's a great place.
And I'm sure teamwork right now is as essential as it was when you were on the football team.
Absolutely. I mean, I obviously played a small role in that football team in regards to where I was. I was would come in when I was needed. In the emergency department, I guess it is kind of similar. I guess I'll take a little bit more of Tom Kirchhoff's role in this situation, as opposed to sitting back. But it's absolutely a team situation. Our nurses are fantastic. Our techs are fantastic. It takes everybody to treat these patients well. And when you have volume, when you have sick people coming in, you need to have confidence in the people around you so that you're able to move off to another patient temporarily to care for them, and then knowing full well that the nurse, the tech, whoever it may be, will let you know if you're stuck in a situation that somebody else, we may need to get some help to take care of this other patient who requires your attention immediately. So the teamwork aspect of medicine is very similar to sports. I mean, it takes the whole team. You can't do it as an individual. And that was certainly, I learned that in sports growing up. It takes everybody.
Well,
Dr.
hopefully we'll
Jason,
get you back on campus. Excuse me, Gary. But we'll have you followed the team at all real quick before we get you out of here?
I have. I actually, I guess the way we got in contact again, I had seen Maddie Bailey a couple times. We went and saw a game at Princeton. My father-in-law had wanted to go to the Princeton game, so we went there and watched. I'd been up at College Hill. I'm not the type of person to make a whole lot of commotion. So I just kind of wander in, I watch, and then I leave. I'd love to get up and see more. My boys would love to get up, and hopefully my daughter will want to come up. My wife I think she's been up once. So we'll see. I guess this was going to be our 25th anniversary, or not anniversary, reunion this year for our class. But I think that's been delayed till October, from what I understand, or at least later in the year. So we certainly will get up and see some football and see everybody up there.
Jason, Mike and I thank you so much for taking the time. We wish you well. Continue to do the marvelous job that you are doing, and thank you for being with us.
I appreciate it. I guess I just hope to say for everybody going forward, I mean, the one thing that there have been some positives out of this. Certainly you see, it seems like people are nicer in the emergency department. It seems like people are appreciating things more. So it's nice that you see that. I hope that continues. That's the takeaway message from all this. I hope people can continue to appreciate what we have and say, okay, take a breath. We're fortunate. So
we'll keep making us safer and healthier.
Very good. I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was nice talking with you guys.